Welcome back to Unrendered. I'm chatting with the Honorable Glen Beache, soon to depart the political scene. Minister Beache, before we went on the break, I threw it out to you that Vincentians perhaps had the right to be nervous about the funding for this airport. A project that's well underway, but not clear on how it's going to end up. You care to expand again what you were talking about with the Prime Minister and his brilliance and coalition of the willing?
It's the coalition of the willing. It's a brilliant plan. As I said, we could not afford this on our own. We've had our partners contribute in different ways. Cuba and Venezuela have contributed their expertise, their engineers. Venezuela has contributed even machines, equipment. Cuba has contributed some workers who have expertise in certain areas. Trinidad and Tobago, 10 million US, the Taiwanese in terms of the 30 million US. And if you go out to Argyle and you look at what has taken place so far, you're seeing the runway now. We should be starting the construction of the terminal building within the next month or so. We've started to negotiate with the airline. There's no need to worry. As a matter of fact, I had to make a promise basically to British Airways that this project will be completed in time for April of 2012.
So where you sit as Minister of Tourism, you've already started to talk to airlines, potential investors in terms of established hotel chains that may want to come in.
Definitely.
The Ministry of Tourism has a plan for after 2012. Is that what you're telling me?
We have a plan to continue to speak to them, to speak to investors, but mainly that falls under Invest SVG though.
Yes.
And anywhere we can assist them, we do. We work it, with each other. We have a plan to continue to negotiate with the airlines. And as this tourism product continues to grow, I have no doubt in my mind that more airlines will be willing to come in. But you know, one of the things we have to be aware of is simply this. The construction of an international airport does not mean we're going to have international flights coming in. Let's take an example, maybe from New York, but let's take an example, say from Miami, every day. This is a building process, and we have to make sure, I mean, we're going to have to give incentives to these airlines. Now, what type of incentives is still under negotiation? It might be market support. It might be guaranteed seats. We're still negotiating this sort of thing. But we have to make sure that we can fill the planes for these airlines. We have to make sure, especially not only from the tourism point of view, but from the diaspora.
Let's compare what's happening, say, in Grenada, St. Lucia, because that's something that people often argue. That Grenada has an international airport, St. Lucia has an international airport, and the airport as an entity perhaps is not doing well. Is that something that you subscribe to?
No, that's not true, because if you check the figures, both of those airports are making a profit. St. Lucia is just about to sign a contract for 400 million US to improve their airport. Grenada just improved their airport for World Cup cricket, and I can assure you that both of these airports are making profits. So I can't understand how anybody would say anything like that.
So you're convinced that the Argyle International Airport will be a linchpin to the development? I know you say other aspects of the economy, but your portfolio as Minister of Tourism, to the development of
the only
tourism.
How Argyle International Airport will suffer is if we finish the construction of Argyle International Airport and we kept E.T. Joshua open, then we'd have a problem.
How do you reckon that?
Well,
St. Lucia does it with
St. Lucia does it, but St. Lucia has its issues. St. Lucia has its issues.
Why do they continue to do that?
I think they do it because of the proximity of the VG airport to Castries. Yeah, for the proximity to Castries. It's right in Castries, basically, and so it's easier business-wise to do it. But I think St. Lucia has suffered because it means, take for example, Barbados will let you know that some of their best business comes from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the passengers who are in transit internationally to catch connecting flight. You can't do that in St. Lucia because people refuse to land in St. Lucia, and instead of just waiting at the airport for a connecting flight, you now have to take another drive
into VG.
To
catch
the
air.
It's problematic.
Let me ask you a question. The argument for niche tourism is one that is thrown out to counter the need to spend so much money to develop an airport. People tell me, oh, St. Thomas doesn't have an international airport, and they name other islands that don't have an international airport, yet they have a vibrant or seemingly have a vibrant tourism industry.
Yeah.
Does that hold true here? Is it that we have not looked at developing the niche high-end side of tourism, and we've gone blindly spending $250 million for mass tourism?
You're not spending this money for mass tourism. As a matter of fact, one of the points I always make when I'm overseas is that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is not a mass tourism destination, and I don't think it will ever become a mass tourism destination.
So why the international?
I'm subject to correction. But you do need to create that market. When you speak about people comparing, let's say, other places that don't have international airports, we have to look at it in its entirety. When you talk about St. Martin and these other countries that don't have an international airport, how close are they to other countries that have international airports?
St. Thomas, I think St. Martin does accommodate.
Okay, St. Thomas, yeah. How close are they to other countries? Countries where where you can take a 9-minute boat ride to get to their destination.
On flat seas.
On flat seas. Well, if it's on rough seas, it might be longer, right? A bit, but not significantly longer. You're also speaking about countries that are sometimes not independent. So they still have that linchpin to their mother country, which makes it easier for them to attract those visitors. Because, say, for example, I mean, Martinique is not the perfect example because they have an international airport, but let me just use Martinique as an example. They're still right there with France. When we go into France and so on, people say, but the only thing we know about the Caribbean is Martinique and Guadeloupe. That's because they're part of France. So we have to take everything into consideration when we speak about these things. We're what, 35 minutes from Barbados by air. We're 25 minutes from St. Lucia by air. I think we're half an hour from Grenada by air. There's a problem, and that's via Dash 8. So even if you get, for example, diving is one of our biggest niche markets. Divers travel with a lot of equipment.
Yes.
It becomes problematic for them to come into St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which has some of the best diving in the Caribbean, if not the best, but the most versatile, diverse diving in the Caribbean. But it becomes problematic.
So for us to be competitive going forward, in your view, an international airport would be a huge asset.
Tremendous asset. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Yeah. Tell me, we're moving on from the airport a little bit. You are coming to the end of your tenure, really, as Minister of Tourism. But I'm interested in the ministry's strategic plan for the development of tourism going forward. You're obviously going to leave something in place. What new and exciting can we expect? What are your breakthrough ideas?
I think right now we're in the process. Hopefully within the next month we would have completed the 10-year plan for tourism, strategic plan for tourism. We've always been innovative with the way we've marketed this destination, especially because we don't have the financial resources that other countries have. And I make this point always. I mean, our budget is 14 million EC. We're going up against the Barbados of 50 million US.
And that's a point I want to take you up on. I'm not going to, I hope you can get back on track with what you're saying, but you mentioned your budget for 14 million EC. What are our revenues of tourism?
Over 300 million.
So the ratio of 14 million to 300, I mean, it's lopsided.
It is.
Basically.
Yeah.
Don't you see something wrong with that?
It depends. I mean, every minister, you have to realize, every minister wants more money for their portfolio. Honorable Dougie Slater wants more money for health. You know, Minister Bergen wants more money for roads. I want more money for tourism. Minister Miguel wants more money for education, which has been one of our strong points since taking office in 2001. I don't think the Prime Minister, as Minister of Finance, has an easy job in trying to satisfy all of us. If you ask me if I think we need more money, yes, we do. And by far we do. If we're going to be competitive, we have to. I think we've done a tremendous job. But also, I know the Prime Minister does his best to make sure every ministry gets something that they can survive on and do the best job they can on.
You see, my point is you are basing a large part of your economy in terms of your revenues on tourism.
Yes.
And it's the revenues that's going to drive your health services anyway. It's the revenues you're going to get from tourism that's going to help you to fix the roads.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Education, I can see that that's a special spot that
Poverty alleviation.
yes, those areas need serious intervention. However, I am not convinced, and I don't know if my viewers are, that if we're taking tourism seriously, that we allocating enough resources to develop it, carry the running cost, the promotional cost of tourism. Are we, realistically?
No, I don't think we are. But as I said, no ministry is going to say they have enough financial resources to do what they need to do in their ministry. I'm no different. I'm a very big on tourism, not only because it's my portfolio, but because I am a strong believer in it. I think we have to reinvest in this, and especially for the competitive nature of this industry. I don't think people quite understand how competitive it is. That everybody, we're going up against every country in the world and for this tourism dollar.
And every country you go up against, let's take, for example, Barbados and St. Lucia. They employ people within the ministries of tourism
and their authorities,
the authorities, etc.
Yes.
Right? And they attract, I suppose, very efficient, very highly qualified people with a proven track record.
Yes.
And they're able to pay salaries that are commensurate with the quality of staff that they're looking for.
Yeah.
How do we stack up with that? I mean,
We
are we
stack-
able to attract
We attract
quality people?
We attract when we launched the Tourism Authority over a year ago. I made sure, and the cabinet made sure, that we had a salary package in place for a CEO that was competitive with any other country in the Caribbean in terms of that position. Now, that being the case, we have to make sure that we don't give away everything and that we don't have enough money to do what we need to do on the marketing front. But I'd tell you this: I'd put my staff at the ministry, at the Tourism Authority, at the National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority, up against any other staff in the Caribbean. I've heard many people, I've heard radio announcers at morning saying that, oh, they don't think we have the right people in place to market St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And those are people who are talking who have no sense and no idea of what is going on in the industry, who are just talking for talking's sake, just to make sure that they can have some people listening to a rather boring radio show. Okay. But my staff is tremendous. They're educated, they're well in tune with what's going on in the industry. I can assure Vincentians they have nothing to worry about when it comes to this aspect.
All right. I cut you off when we were talking about the 10-year strategic plan. So let's get back on track with that.
But basically, we have the 10-year strategic plan to make sure that we have certain things and that we can do certain things. There are things that we have to do and we need to do in terms of developing the product, making sure that we have things in place to attract people that they can enjoy. I'll give you an example. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, one of our biggest weaknesses in the tourism industry is souvenirs. Big weakness. We have a lot of gifted craftsmen and women, but in terms of what they produce, a lot of it is too big. People don't want to buy it to carry back. And I think we don't make a use of a lot of our natural resources in terms of what we do in arts and crafts. One of the things we have to make sure is that we get that up and running, that people can purchase crafts when they come to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In the cruise ship industry, something was done with regards to the FCCA, Florida Caribbean Cruise Association, in terms of they were looking visitor expenditure in terms of cruise ship passengers. And St. Vincent and the Grenadines came in last. We don't take full advantage of what the cruise ship passengers can do here. When the former Prime Minister Mitchell spoke about the 3 Ps of cruise tourism, he was talking absolute nonsense, because the potential is there to make a great deal of money.
So you thought that was an irresponsible statement?
It was more than irresponsible.
Okay, Minister Beache, let's hold it there. We come back for our final segment. You're looking at Unrendered, and my guest is soon to be outgoing Honorable Glen Beache. More with him when we come back.